This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
Welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley here with Matt Williamson and Max Starks. We are live at the Breakers Hotel here in beautiful Palm Beach, Florida, where the league meetings are taking place. Heard from Mike Tomlin yesterday, the Steelers head coach, again part of the AFC breakfast this morning with all the coaches from all the AFC teams jammed into one little tiny room.
Yeah.
And then heard
no
from,
air conditioning I heard this morning.
Yeah, it was broken down. It's back
Yeah.
up now. And then, we heard from Omar Khan right around noon as well. So lots of people talking. A few of them are saying.
Few of them know.
Yeah, a few of them know.
Yeah.
Where the quarterback is. Yeah.
So is it just safe to say that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Steelers quarterback at this point? I mean, do you come to Pittsburgh on a Friday and spend the day, or do you go out and spend his time with DK Metcalf? I mean, I know we're jumping ahead here, but why else would any human being ever do these things?
I mean, he is a free agent, so technically he doesn't have a team.
He doesn't have anything to do.
So
right.
maybe he's looking for somebody and just happened to be,
walking down the
somewhere
street.
in
You
LA.
look like you could be a receiver.
Hey, I got this football.
Yeah.
You got cleats on too? Hey,
It just
there's
so
a
happens,
field
right.
over here. You know what? Let's just see how it feels. Let's just throw a feeler out there.
Just so happens they were in L.A. together, you know?
Just so happens.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron's from Cali, right? But
Yes.
he's from Northern California, though.
Yeah, he's from the San Francisco area. DK is actually from the Memphis area.
Yeah, but
Don't know where he lives in the off season.
yeah, but where did he play college ball? Did he play college ball?
Mississippi.
In Mississippi, yeah. So at UCLA?
From Memphis to Mississippi to Seattle, and somehow found his way to L.A.
At the same
Maybe
time
just
as
a
Aaron
coincidence.
Rodgers.
Right.
Just so happened to both show up, and it was like a pickup game. Pickup game of
exactly.
hoops.
Whoever shows up
Exactly.
wants to play.
Dude
right.
shows up with his basketball. Hey, you want to play a little one-on-one?
I saw that movie happen once in the early 90s. Somebody couldn't jump, apparently. hey, I'll take you, random guy.
Yeah, that was at Muscle Beach, though.
Yeah, that was at Muscle Beach, a little bit further down.
So they got together. They threw together. And all you have to do is start. I'm not saying anything is done at this point.
Sure. Nothing
because
is.
nothing is done until the name is signed.
And it actually gets to New York.
Yes.
In the little fax machine that we don't know why there's still a fax machine
Is
in
there
New York.
still
in
a
the
fax
21st
machine?
That's what they always say. It's a
I know.
fax. I'm like, it's an email.
Yeah.
If that, a scanned image. I don't know.
Yeah, who has a fax
Can't be a
machine
fax.
at this
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how do you couldn't even get it fixed at this point.
No, who's going to fix it?
Yeah, those guys are all gone.
Yeah, all those millennials have retired.
Yeah.
My tenure at Pitt, we had a fax machine. On signing day, you'd hover around it like a bonfire, hoping things came through, and half the time they wouldn't, and it was like a total mess.
Well, and that's what I did. When I signed my commitment
Yeah.
papers, I had to fax them to University of Florida.
They like go to the school because they had a fax machine.
yeah,
and,
they had a
right.
central fax somewhere. Yeah,
So we know Aaron Rodgers. Mike Tomlin said this yesterday. Hey, yes, we did, in fact, host Aaron Rodgers.
had a great conversation.
Two Fridays ago.
Mm-hmm.
This morning he says he's been in constant
contact
with Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson, a few days after Aaron Rodgers visits the Steelers, decides, you know what? I'm not going to wait on the Steelers anymore. I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to accept their offer.
Yep.
And now DK
Which
Metcalf.
was like 2 hours after Ward's pro day at Miami.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
all these. I mean, the timeline's not real hard
Just
to figure
start
out.
putting
Right.
everything. The puzzle is there.
It is.
You just need to put the pieces together on the board.
Yeah, it's like when you see those kids that do the puzzles upside down. They're just matching the shapes, and then you look underneath the glass. It's actually the full picture. We're seeing the puzzle with just the back side of it.
Yeah.
But it's all together.
It's there. The pieces are all
Nobody's
there.
looked under the table yet.
I think we can
Yeah.
deduce what's happening.
Yeah.
There'd be a whole lot of wasted time otherwise.
Yes, and we would have wasted a lot of hours talking about this if
Yes.
it wasn't going to be.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So, the timeline is the timeline. I know everybody wants everything now. That's just the society that we live in. Aaron Rodgers will decide when Aaron Rodgers wants to actually put name or pen to paper.
Yeah.
And whenever that happens, I feel like the Steelers, and I don't know this for certain, but I feel like based on what we know and how these puzzle pieces have all come together.
And the transactions they've made.
We've seen that, I think, they believe it's going to be Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. They've lined it up.
It sure seems like they're pretty comfortable with the whole situation.
Even if you then start looking at Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan both talked about it, and Tomlin stressed it again this morning. Hey, we were just at three colleges last week that have quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But it was Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Alabama.
Texas.
Texas, I'm sorry.
Texas,
Yeah, they have other guys too.
Yeah. Quinn Ewers, Will Howard, and I can't remember the running kid, Riley
Leonard.
Yeah, Riley Leonard.
None of whom are first-round guys.
No.
So
all day 2-3.
Yeah, somewhere in that day 2, maybe round 4 type guys.
Early day 3, yeah.
And those universities have other players besides
the
quarterbacks too.
They do, but
if you didn't go to Ohio State's pro day, you're doing something wrong.
He specifically mentioned though that they were at those pro days because they have quarterbacks who are draft eligible.
Mm-hmm. We knew the Milroe thing too.
Yeah.
Who's also not going in the first round.
Definitely not going in the first round.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we emphasize that.
Yeah, Colin Cowherd.
Yeah.
Colin Cowherd had the Steelers drafting Jalen Milroe in the first round.
I was like,
come on, man.
I was like, dude.
Tell me you don't know anything without telling me you don't know anything.
Yeah.
I heard my favorite Jalen Milroe comparison yesterday. Happy Gilmore. Great off the tee, gets near the hole, forget about it. I mean, he's just all over the place. Right, the layups are right.
He needs the hockey putter.
right. Great off the tee, though, and does some spectacular stuff. But gets near the green, it's not so great.
It's like Anthony Richardson. Great arm, great talent.
Yeah,
looks the part.
Needs to
looks
develop.
the part, but needs time to develop.
No,
that's not a first-round pick.
Yeah,
that is. Well, the Colts thought so, and are now being proven wrong about that.
And now they have another first-round pick in there, and Daniel.
Yeah, that's what that had. So the people who are saying that the Steelers don't have a plan, there is a plan in place. I tweeted out all the stuff that was said this morning, and immediately on social media,
right.
I've got 400 replies on there. Steelers are showing they have no plan. So you expect the Steelers to come to this event and say, here's our plan. This is what we're going to do at quarterback.
Yeah. Hey, you wanted to know. We've been waiting to tell you.
Can't wait.
Because not only do we want to let you guys know, we want you guys to let the entire rest of the NFL know exactly what our plan is.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty clear what their plan is.
Yes.
And
all you have to do
happens to be throwing to your receiver you just traded for.
Teams tell you say it all the time, Matt. Teams tell you what their intentions are by the moves that they make.
Yep. That's the one time they can't lie to you. I mean, draft day is an open book. You just have to read the tea leaves and figure it out. Free agency, they don't throw money around for fun.
No.
Moves for
I know
fun.
we talked about what their maximum team spin needs to be, and the Patriots might be doing that just to get rid
just
of
to get there, yeah.
But the Steelers aren't in that same category. There's a difference between those two.
And what you don't want to happen, Browns owner Jimmy Haslam talked this morning, and he was asked about the Deshaun Watson situation, and he said, look, we took a big swing and we missed. We took a big swing and missed with Deshaun. We thought we had the quarterback. We didn't, and we gave up a lot of draft picks to get him. So we've got to dig ourselves out of that hole.
At least there's some recognizing your faults. You know what I mean?
Finally. 3 years later.
3 years later.
They've continually kicked the can down the road with that.
And they still do it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like an $80 million cap hit next year.
The Steelers have not done that. Even if they sign Aaron Rodgers, you're just signing Aaron Rodgers. Honestly, if you look at what the Steelers have put into the quarterback position at this point in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era, they used a first-round draft pick on Kenny Pickett. They traded a sixth-round draft pick last year. They got a pick back for Kenny Pickett. What was it, a 4 or 5?
And they swapped some late stuff, too. And, you got a little something
and
back.
And they're also going to get compensatory picks now for Justin Fields and Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Both of them they paid nothing last year. Gave very little.
These are not massive. These are swings, but they're not the Happy Gilmore swings.
No
I'm not standing up there and swinging out of my shoes.
Bunts. These are bunts at best.
These are trying to
sacrifice bunts. That's about it.
Until you get into the situation, which you will be in next year. And Con talked about that this morning with all the compensatory picks that they've acquired.
Now you have swings.
Now you can take that big swing if you so choose.
And I think that's the time to do it. I mean, it wouldn't break my heart if they used a mid-round pick on a quarterback. We know that 4 are going to be at camp. If Rodgers is in tow, that makes 3. one young guy wouldn't break my heart. Maybe you find the next Dak Prescott in the 5th round or whatever. You probably won't. You might find the next Mason Rudolph that's a long-time backup for you or around the league. Fine. If they don't draft one this year, I'm not going to cry about it either. And I hate the argument of, well, next year's going to be a better quarterback class. You and I talk about this all the time, Dale. It probably will be because this one isn't great, but I'm not banking on that. It's more my timeline of when I'm financially, draft pick-wise, line of scrimmage-wise, ready to take the big swing. You know, if there's a guy you love, next year you have all these extra picks. You could trade the following first-round pick, something they don't usually do, but then you take your swing. I'm all for that.
You could Ricky Williams a damn draft.
Yeah.
Say, hey, we're going to have 11 picks. We'll give you all 11 of them to move up.
Yep. And next year's first.
10 spots. Yeah. You know, to go get the quarterback, if that's the one that you have chosen and looked like, okay, this is the guy.
And that's still not as big a swing as Watson, which was ruined 3 draft classes and your salary cap.
Yeah.
You know?
Other than that, it was perfect.
Right.
Yeah. But and also I think you also have to think about this. When we drafted Ben in the class that I was in, everything else was in place.
It was all there.
Everything's not all in place. This is the year to get the rest of your ducks in a row.
100%.
Right? Like you said, get the line of scrimmage taken care of.
Yep. That's my whole goal for this offseason.
We handled the offensive side of the ball the last 2 years. Now let's turn our attention to the defensive side of the ball.
The nest is built.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now you take the egg, and you put the egg in there, and Mama Hen sits on it and hatches, and maybe it grows into a franchise quarterback.
You make the best nest possible. But that's what's cool about this offseason is I could definitely paint a picture where Rodgers is your opening day starter, and your offense is better than last year's. Your quarterback play is better than last year's. DK Metcalf's in the fold. It's year 2 of the Arthur Smith system. The zone running game's going better. The ball carriers, the linemen are all on the same page. The defense is still playing well, and you infused it with young D linemen, which they'd be crazy not to in this draft.
Yeah.
That's a nice nest. And you have so much cap space a year from now. You have so many draft picks a year from now. And you're going to have Rudolph. I don't know if you'll have Rodgers or not. But a first-round pick and Rudolph, who you know is already set, that's the nest.
And whatever quarterback you happen to take this year in the 4th or 5th round that you can also – all right, we got 3 guys now. They're going to be here.
QB. We got our other one. Hey, now
and you might win games this year. It's not like usually building the nest is –
I don't think you might win games this year.
Right.
You've won 10 games in each of the last 2 seasons.
And you've been a playoff team.
You've been a playoff team.
Yeah.
People are acting like this roster is completely devoid of talent.
They act like we're the Jets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We have not been the Jets. We have not been the Panthers. We have not been those teams that have literally had to rebuild.
Yep.
We've been retooling, and we've still maintained a modicum of success that's above 500.
Yeah. And this year could be a little better than that. Maybe you do start winning playoff games, and then you add the young guy to the mix. That's how you build it, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think it's very clear. I mean,
absolutely.
People say that they don't – a couple things make me crazy. They have no plan. You just think they just throw darts and – I mean, what do you think they do behind the scenes? And then the other thing that makes me insane, too, is – well, if they use a first-round pick on a quarterback, this team has no ability to develop one. I'm like, dude, I was born in 73, and I'm not even going to include Bradshaw. Are you going to blame him for Mark Malone and Pickett? Well, they developed Ben. There's been 3 first-round picks in 50 years, and 2 of them are going to the Hall of Fame if we go back to 55 years.
Yeah.
There's been one instance in the last decade. You're 0 for 1. You're not 0 for 100. You're not the Browns.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have a graveyard of quarterbacks in somebody's yard here.
No.
We actually have a nice carousel of quarterbacks that have gotten us to the playoffs.
Right.
That's the different way.
Yeah.
This is not the list of Browns quarterbacks since 1999, and 2 of them have gotten the team into the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you look at the Steelers starters over the last, since Ben retired, yeah, there's a number of different starters there. But they've also made the playoffs in those years.
Yeah, and they win games.
Let's get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. That's Max Starks. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here from West Palm. We're in Palm Beach.
Yeah, we are in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that.
Okay. West is across the bridge.
Yes,
we're
inland.
in Palm Beach.
We're staying in West Palm Beach,
Yes.
but we're live in Palm Beach.
Yeah, this is the only time we're allowed into Palm Beach.
Yes, daylight hours.
We're visitors
when in doubt,
here.
pinky out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got a special edition of The Drive here. We're going to go 3 hours, and it'll be lots of fun. We'll continue to talk about everything that we're learning down here. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley here with Max Starks and Matt Williamson here on the Steelers Audio Network. This is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio, and we are live here in Palm Beach, Florida, not West Palm Beach. We're staying in West Palm Beach. We are in Palm Beach here at the Breakers. Beautiful hotel here where the league has their meetings every few years. And another one happening this weekend. And not a lot of rule change stuff on the docket.
Yeah, a little slow. Yeah.
A little slow. Mike Tomlin was asked this morning what his feelings are on the tush push. And he said that the first time he saw it, he's like, that can't be legal. Because he says, you're not allowed to do that on a field goal attempt. You can't vault. You can't use another player to get into the backfield because there's a danger situation there. And he was then asked as a follow-up, he said, well, what are your feelings about the play? Is this because he said, if it becomes a situation where, player health becomes a concern, then I'm going to be, probably against it. He said, but at this point, I found this interesting. He said there's been about 170 tush pushes in the NFL.
Okay.
Since teams started
not
doing
quarterback sneaks. We're talking about
pure tush pushes.
Right.
He said, and I don't know that we can look at that realistically and say this play is safe or this play is unsafe based on 170 plays. He said when we're talking about other plays that are safe or unsafe, he's like, we have like 40,000 plays to look at.
Yeah. Hip drops and horse collars and all that type of thing. And that's something I've been harping on ever since this tush push became a big deal, was I'm shocked that more people haven't gotten hurt just because – I wouldn't want to get pushed from behind and lose control of my body if I'm that ball control guy. And I hope they don't, but I also think they might be coming,
Yeah, well, I think if more teams do adopt it, I think you could see it.
Yeah.
Like you said, it is a small sample size, and like you said, it's one team that really does it effectively.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, everybody else.
Other teams play at doing it, and some of them don't even use their quarterback.
No, they're like,
we're not
putting that guy in.
You're too valuable. We're going to use a tight end to do that.
Yeah, listen in the training dummy, to go in for this.
But
the stunt man. The stunt man comes in to run that play.
Can we get our stunt QB in here? Stunt QB, come on.
But if there's no changes to the rules in the next 24 hours or so, you're going to have to start figuring out how to defend it. And, hey, should we be a team that starts to employ it too because it works?
Yeah.
Well, and that's one thing he said. He said, I don't want to see teams who come up with something that is inventive necessarily penalized.
Sure.
Unless it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
He said you tip your cap to him. Hey, you guys thought of that. Good for you.
They'll figure out a way to stop it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if we were Eagles Nation Radio, it would be like, well, try to stop it.
Well, and the thing is, keep us out of 4th and 1s. How about
or
that?
Third and one, or any
yeah.
one.
It's like put us in 2+ yard situations or greater, and then we'll stop using it. Force us out of using it versus giving us the opportunity.
It's really not all that different in terms of what you're doing stylistically, as the teams who go for it every time on 4th down.
Yeah,
we're going to go on 4th. If it's 4th and 3, we're
Dan
going.
Campbell, right?
Yeah,
the Lions.
Washington
did it a lot, and. I'm not a guy who necessarily agrees with that tact. Like, I'm not going for 4th downs on my own damn side of the field.
No.
That's putting your defense at risk.
Yeah.
Needlessly.
Yeah. Now, if you're at midfield, okay, then we could talk about it, But, I mean, before that, I'm not that guy that's just like, just
I can
all
remember
the way to the wall.
Brandon Staley did it in the game that they needed to win. They're playing the Raiders. The Chargers are playing the Raiders, and he went for it at like his own 20. In the first drive of the second half and didn't get it, and now you're like, no, that's just dumb football.
Yeah, that's not smart at all.
That's not
smart.
But
the key to me, the next level of thinking it through, though, is being the play caller on 2nd and 3rd down.
Right, you got to set yourself up.
If I know that we're going for it on 4th and it's 3rd and 6, and I get nickel or dime, well, that's a rundown for me because
I know I'm going for it.
I know I'm going for it. And/or I know I have the tush push in my back pocket. If Barkley can get me 4, I'm going to get the first down. Or if it's 3rd and 2, I might throw a bomb to A.J. Brown as opposed to tush pushing it because I'll just do it next time. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, knowing that you're going to go for it, Washington, Detroit. Washington's really interesting to me, though, because they went for it way more than anybody else and were way more successful than anybody else, which to me just screams fluke. like coming back to the mean next year. Like I think they were like 80% or something insane on fourth downs.
Well, Jaden Daniels,
he's going to be better at it than most, but they're not going to make 80% of their fourth down attempts.
but you're also now going to have – you had no real tape. You didn't have the 170 plays that Tomlin talked about of Daniels running. What do they do on fourth down? Well, now we've got 60 examples of what they do on fourth down. All right, so now we're going to start taking that stuff away from him. And that
it's not going
to be as successful.
That O-line's not the Eagles. It's not the Hogs. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
They just traded for Tunsil. But, I mean, that can't be your bread and butter. They kind of got away with that, in my opinion.
Well, it was a high rate of success, I mean, because obviously former Steeler Darnell Stapleton's their O-line coach, right?
Oh, nice.
For Washington. So, I mean, Darnell and him and I had talked about it, at length, like, hey, I'm just trying to find the things that these guys are good at and just make sure that we continually keep that in the game plan. I mean, that was the idea of it. So when you're talking about getting away with it, it's like, let's get away with what we know we can do. Let's rep it to all high hell like we used to do.
Be better at it than everybody else, right?
Like Russ Grimm used to do with us in our offensive line. Like, we rep double more than anybody else in the league. I will put that against anybody from 2004 to 2006. Nobody practiced double against more different odd fronts than we did, so that when we got to 4-minute football, we could run the same exact play in the same formation against any defense threw at us, and we'd be successful. You could not stop it.
It goes back to Vince Lombardi. We're going to run the power sweep better than anybody on the planet that ever has. We're rep it to death,
Yeah.
And it's coming, and you still can't stop it.
Can't stop it.
And Jaden Daniels was a trump card. Not every team can do that. Not every team has that guy. And
but I do think there's an element of taking people by surprise. It's a first-year coach, a first-year quarterback, a first-year coordinator, and no one's going to hit 80% on fourth downs because they're not all fourth and inches either.
No. So I understand the idea, and every time I see somebody, one of these teams doing it, I'm like, I don't know if I'd go in that situation. You're a dinosaur. This is the way football is played now. I'm like, that could be the way losing football is played now because you're not going to get them all. And you're doing that deep in your own territory. You're just asking to get beat. Yeah, you're just asking for it.
Yeah, you're asking for an injury to happen, in those situations, right? Because not only if you are in a backed up situation, you are going for a fourth down, but then you do something that is that scrum style play. Listen, bad things can happen.
That stuff worries me.
Or you could lose a lineman. Doesn't necessarily have to be the quarterback. We're not talking about him. But if you lose your center, you lose one of your Pro Bowl level guards or high drafted guards, and you don't have anybody on the bench, that could be just as detrimental.
That's the thing we don't know. So Philadelphia center and their left guard,
Landon Dickerson,
were both banged up in the playoffs. Was that because it wasn't specifically on a tush-push play, but did running 35 tush-push plays over the course of the season,
cumulative effect,
the cumulative effect of that, affect his back, affect his ankle, the things that were wrong with them? We don't know that.
Yeah.
They might know that.
They definitely have to know that.
Yeah. Like, okay, maybe we ran too many tush pushes.
Yeah. Maybe we should have just ran a little veer. Maybe this time.
We got Saquon Barkley. He might be able to get us.
We do have thunder quads in the backfield.
I do think
two of them.
I do think it's a massive advantage though for the offensive play caller. Just on early downs.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Yeah, I mean to know that I have 4 downs to play with and not 3. Not that I'm going to be successful every time on fourth down. And I'm not saying go for it on your own 20 and all these things, but the fact that I know that as a play caller, man, I can take shots on 3rd and 1 every time.
Whatever you want, Jalen.
Yeah, whatever looks good.
What's going to be interesting, guys,
be in the best play.
With Ben Johnson now taking over as the head coach in Chicago, we may get an idea here whether it was Ben Johnson who was calling all the fourth down stuff and maybe pushing for the Lions to do that, or whether it was Matt Campbell who was the guy pushing to.
I'm betting it's Campbell. I'm just curious. I mean, just Campbell's personality is aggressive.
And he is a former offensive player.
Right. Yeah. So, blocking tight
end. But I don't know that is
But I wonder if Johnson will take that.
Is Ben Johnson
and run with it?
Yeah, going to take that and run with it in Chicago, or is he going to look at this and go, there were some situations that didn't work out.
I wish we
I'm
wouldn't
the
have
play
been.
caller in that.
We
and
shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my call.
Like somebody in that, and it probably wasn't Campbell, it probably was Johnson, designed a play where you had your best offensive lineman throwing a pass.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of Chiefs-esque, ring around the rosy and that kind of stuff. Right. It's getting a little
A little too crazy.
A little aggressive, yeah.
Like when the only sack that your offensive line gave up in a particular game was your right tackle getting sacked on a pass. Maybe it got a little too cute.
Yeah, just a smidge.
But I don't think it's an accident at all that the Lions were built on offensive line.
Yeah.
And immediately Johnson goes from Detroit to Chicago and trades for a guard, a center, and a guard in the course of a week. And I don't care what it costs. I'm going to add Thuney. I'm going to add, I'm going to rebuild this thing. I don't know how aggressive he'll be, but he's going to be built on the line.
Exactly.
No doubt.
I mean, and thank goodness they didn't know that before Ben Johnson, because that's how we got Justin Fields. Right. And then Caleb Williams looked like, he looked like a whirling dervish back there the entire season. And it was running for his life. And they were like, well, this is so much better having Caleb Williams over Justin Fields. I say it looks exactly the same. And the result was exactly the same.
It really was. I mean, they won a couple of games early, and everybody's like, they're turning it around, and then proceeded to lose like their next 11 in a row.
Yeah, I watched Darnell Mooney walk straight off the field because I had the Cardinals-Bears game where he just walked off the field during the play when Caleb was scrambling.
It was
what was
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
Right.
DM initials.
Yeah.
So many of them.
No, I saw that play as well. And so you wonder, is it so much of the time the offensive line takes the brunt of the criticism when a quarterback gets sacked a lot.
They do.
And it's not fair to the offensive lineman. That's a quarterback stat.
To me, this is a perfect example, is if I'm taking over the Bears – and my job is to get Caleb Williams right. To me, the biggest problem with Caleb Williams is he invites sacks. He did it at USC, and it was easy to explain. Boy, the USC O-line's really bad. Is it that bad compared to it's not USC's usual standards, but it's easy to blame the line. Well, he's taking sacks at every level. So if I'm Johnson, I'm going to be like, well, I'm going to take that excuse away. I'm not going to be able to blame the O-line because now I have Thuney at left guard, and I got a real center. And if he's still taking sacks, I either have to coach it out of him or find another quarterback.
Well, and I think the other thing that people don't want to look at for quarterbacks is maybe he can't read coverages.
Oh, right. There's always a reason why.
Yeah,
right.
I'm saying, and I'm going to tell you, I've called his games at USC, and I called his game when he was in Chicago. He cannot read coverage. And that's where you see the
processing
and the going around and trying to move things.
That extra quarter second that he takes is the one that gets him sacked.
Yeah, and that's in that moment, it's like, hey, and that's why he has to own those, because it's like, dude, until you sit down and study what you claim you want to do and show me that you know what base outside of base cover 2 looks like. If you can show me what 3 looks like, if you can show me what cut 3, if you can show me cloud coverage, and you know where to go with all those, I can't trust you.
Let me ask you about this.
Questions about Fields on that.
Is that's something that Shedeur Sanders has held the football? It's over like 2.9 seconds at Colorado.
Yeah,
he invites a lot of sacks.
And his offensive line was really bad.
It is.
It is trash, but
he could get rid of the football a lot quicker.
Yeah, he could, and it's not just waiting for Travis Hunter to get open.
Yeah,
that was the other thing.
See, that's what's interesting to me about Shedeur is it's very clear that his O linemen stink. Building an O-line at the college level isn't like getting Shedeur and Hunter to transfer. You can find some skill guys, you can turn things around, but you're not going to find linemen for a couple of years, Dion.
8 of them that you're going to need over the course of the season.
Like Georgia, and these teams that can get linemen.
Had a true freshman at left tackle.
Right. It was a terrible line.
Yeah.
I'll give Sanders that without question. But, boy, he takes a ton of sacks, and a really high percentage of their throws are bubbles and quick hitters to Hunter where the ball does come out super quick. But Sanders, I also think when you break down his game, one of his best things is processing and reading coverages and playing on time and rhythm until he doesn't. And then it's a mess.
Well, and I think that's the other thing is having a line that can hold up for, the goal is an offensive line. I want to be able to hold up from 2.5 to about 3.2 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Then that's my after that.
If it's 3.2,
you still got your quarterback still has the ball at 3.2 seconds. I'm turning around going, dude, what are you doing back there?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think if you're, as a line, if you can get between that range, that's the range you want to be in, every quarterback should be able to make a play.
So this is really encouraging to me from bring it back to the Steelers. If you look, NFL Next Gen has a stat of average time to pressure. And a pressure to me is a little vague, but over the course of the year, you have a pretty good idea. The two highest teams in the average time when they actually deemed it a pressure were Kansas City and Baltimore. that adds up. Those two quarterbacks are really hard to get pressure on. Their lines are good. Their schemes are good. The Steelers were third. To me, that says quarterback, not line.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're allowing 10 pressures a game, but they're late in the down over and over and over, I'll tell you what, it's not going to be on Rodgers. If anything, it'll be the opposite. It'll be end to Ben getting it out too quick. But it won't be on Rodgers in terms of time to pressure.
Yeah.
This line is better in protection than people think.
Yeah, and the reason why they don't like it is because they don't see the points, right?
Right. No, right.
But it's like that's
they
not
just
the
see the
offensive line's
results.
fault. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you see results. You read the stat sheet, it doesn't look great.
They see the symptoms of the disease. They don't see how the disease started. Right.
Exactly. And so that's where you have to be like, okay, this group isn't as bad. And that's what and that's why I think it's perfect. When you're thinking about Aaron Rodgers coming here, it's like you're getting the third best blocking, offensive line group on pass protection.
Yeah.
That's a bonus.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you add in a competent run game, and you have a lot of weapons at your disposal.
Yeah, and he's a microcomputer back there with getting the ball out.
Yeah.
And actually, it's one thing that worries me is advanced age, doesn't want to get hit, might put it out too quick.
Yeah,
but it's not going to be back there patting the ball, running around. It's coming out.
No. And running around.
There's going to be a lot
right.
less quarterback hits than there were in last year, assuming Rodgers is a quarterback.
Let's get to another break. He is Matt Williamson. That's Max Starks. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive, this special edition of The Drive from Palm Beach, Florida, here where the league meetings are taking place. We'll be back with
more. I hope it warms up soon.
Oh, yeah.
Way too chilly out here.
I hope it's snowing in Pittsburgh right now.
Where's my sweater?
We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are here at the Breakers in Palm Beach, Florida. Matt and I will be back in Pittsburgh tomorrow. I assume Max is headed back to Phoenix.
Back to the desert.
It's a dry heat.
Yes, a dry
Not like
heat.
the
this
moist
doesn't
heat.
happen as easily. This doesn't.
It's a very, very moist heat here.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, so
steam room, not sauna.
Yeah. Guys, I think let's assume if we can here, the Steelers get Aaron Rodgers signed.
Yeah.
Okay.
That then, to me, leaves really one starting spot open on this roster in terms of they don't have a guy right now. They have guys, but not somebody that you could outdraft these guys pretty easily, and that's on the defensive line.
Yeah.
So I think you start to then narrow in on the draft here that's going to take place. Well, it's now April 1st, so later this month. That defensive line becomes the priority for the Steelers if it already hadn't been. And you can forget about the team drafting a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah. I think it would be a safe bet. Not early.
Not early. At some point,
At some point
not
it'll
early.
happen, but just not in the first round, and obviously not in the second round. We don't have one of those.
Yeah.
And Dale, to be honest, if you just concentrate on defense, I think you can make a pretty strong argument that they are really close, if not done, at edge, at inside linebacker, at safety after adding Thornhill, and corner. Now, they might draft one of those positions, but it's probably going to be late. I mean, they might add a free agent, but
you're not drafting a wide receiver in the first round.
Pretty much in the barn on
you
defense. You
could, I guess, draft a running back in the first round, but, I mean, talking to Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin, they both, said, hey, no, Jaylen Warren is, he is certainly capable of being your starting running back.
Mm-hmm. And Gainwell's a good number two,
Gainwell's
just like he was in Philly.
Offensive line, you've got 5 guys coming back with starting experience. Now there are going to be some shifts and things of that nature there. I guess technically you could draft another offensive lineman early if that's the way if things lined up. But that's just, again, you're not drafting a tight end in the first round.
Nope.
So that leaves the defensive line.
Yeah, it's a big neon light sign pointing down to the interior defensive line.
As it should. I mean, that's the way they set this thing up because it's a really good defensive tackle draft too, Yeah,
there's a lot of good defensive linemen, and I think with the amount of edges that are also available, that's going to give us more options when it does come to 21 that you're going to get there because everybody else in front of you have probably 4 that might be looking at D-line, and it's kind of like a tweener between other issues that they're going to need to answer.
And maybe they're looking for an end, not a
D-tackle or
so
a nose tackle
I've got Bob McGinn's thing here that he does on his website, Go Long, and Matt and I have talked about this, and Bob's done this for years up in the Green Bay area. and he talks to different scouts around the league and things of that nature. And they said the same thing about, for example, Mason Graham that I felt about him. He's a 4-3 defensive tackle. He doesn't really fit in the 3-4 scheme because his arms are a little bit shorter. He doesn't have that premier length that you necessarily look for.
Extension lockout that they're looking for in a 3-4.
So if he goes early, that's fine. That doesn't affect my defensive tackle board at all. And then you start looking at some of those other guys, and
Graham's not getting to 21 no matter.
No, he's not going to get there.
Right.
But then
and
you start
trading up for him. Or,
the Walter Nolans, the
Kenneth Grants.
Yeah.
Harmon,
Kenneth Grant, Harmon.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing here about this, and this is, again, from him talking to scouts, he has Alfred Collins as his number 3 guy.
Oh, does he?
Having talked to scouts.
Okay. Who's he of 2? I haven't looked at it yet.
2 is Nolan.
There's Nolan.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. I understand Collins, though. I mean, sort of in a Kenneth Grant-like manner.
Yeah.
He's not just a two-gapping nose type of player. I mean, he's a big-bodied guy, and the league is moving those guys all over the defensive front now, too. And Grant's a great example. I mean, these guys are big athletes with length and versatility.
Yeah, because Collins, he's like 6'5", 6'6"? Mm-hmm.
He's 6'5.5", 332.
Okay.
Here's some of the comps. These are NFL scouts comping here on this guy. He's in just a guy in there wrecking things and being a problem. Marcus Straub was a little bit more dynamic. Marcus Straub was a really good football player.
Oh, yeah.
He's a handful.
Trust me, I played against that guy in college at the pros. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
I can say that, yes.
One of the other guys says talented but inconsistent. John Henderson. John Henderson was a really good football player.
Yeah. You're talking. Are we just naming
carbon
the 2000 NFL draft here right now? I mean, and in the SEC?
If you're going to tell me Alfred Collins can be
John Henderson or Marcus
a half a
Straub,
step back from one of those guys?
Dude,
okay.
That's great company.
Yeah.
Also, other Redwoods.
I mean, I don't like that. I'm thinking second round on Alfred Collins, and now these guys are saying, no, he's a first-round pick.
I mean, that's a heck of a one, especially when you look at scouts. I mean, Texas had a lot of success. I mean, but I think we kind of always focused on the offensive side of the ball. It was Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning type of conversation. We looked at him, but I go back to last year to Vondre Sweat on that defensive line. Alfred Collins played on that line with him.
Yeah.
And Murphy was a first-round pick.
Yeah,
exactly.
He was behind two guys who were both high draft picks last year.
Top 40 picks.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Georgia, right? 2-3 years ago, where it's like, oh, this is the next one up. Okay, let's take him. Mm-hmm. I think he fits in that mold. And like you said, Texas is playing a lot different than the Texas we've known of the last 15 years. That was a very elite defense. They put the pause on Alabama. I mean, remember that game?
Oh, yeah.
They beat the brakes off of them, and it wasn't even close. And then even to stymie a lot of their action that they like. So I mean, yeah, that makes sense. And kind of a guy I've looked over a little bit because I've been so focused on the Oregon, the Michigan guys, and everybody else. Mm-hmm. But Alfred Collins does fit into that. That's an interesting one to put him up there.
Again, I haven't read it yet, but it wouldn't shock me if they were talking about, his best football might be next year.
Yeah.
I mean, ahead of him. I mean, he's a
and they're saying
player.
he could be a 3-4 defensive tackle. He has enough pass rush ability that he can push the pocket and do some of those things too because he has that length.
Yeah, I was saying he has that length because what's his arms?
34 and 5/8.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There it is.
Yeah.
Long arm stab. If he can learn that from Cam, probably for other people.
Again, they had him rated ahead of Kenneth Grant,
which is, I think more so because Grant's injury, right? I mean, I think that's what's kind of held the comparison down because he's not doing anything. Collins did something. Yeah. But I believe they're right there with each other.
Well, and the comps on Kenneth Grant reminds me a little of Richard Seymour and Kevin Williams.
Not bad. Not bad. Yeah.
Marcus Stroud's teammate, Richard Seymour.
All the same era.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Early 2000s football.
Which I think when you read those things,
those guys are a little heavier. They got a little more in the middle.
Yeah.
Than the
you start to get an idea of what
yeah.
kind of defensive tackle draft this is.
Right.
Yeah.
Like these guys were dudes,
and they were dominant dudes.
Yeah. They didn't call it the Williams wall for no reason.
Yeah, he's a borderline Hall of Famer, and Seymour's in. And,
right. Seymour's in. Kevin Williams very well should be in or could be in. Mm-hmm. Those are good football players. These guys,
and they're all body beautiful, huge, long arms.
First guy off the
6'5",
bus.
Right.
Yeah.
Rare human beings. Right.
They like Tyleek Williams as well.
Okay.
I get it.
Yeah.
I think there's a little untapped pass rush there that we don't talk about enough, too. I mean,
he can play 0, he can play 1, he can play 3. Like,
yeah, he can play anywhere on the interior. You can slide him as long as he gets comfortable and get him some reps at it.
The one thing I recently found out about him, though, is he came to Ohio State much lighter and put on a lot of weight at a very rapid rate and handled it extremely well. A lot of those guys get too big too fast. I'm sure you could attest to it to some degree, guys you've been around.
Yeah.
But, okay, we're going to keep adding weight. We're going to keep adding weight, and didn't lose quickness, didn't lose technique, didn't lose pad level. And it's like, okay, he can handle it.
Yeah, he's built for it.
Yeah. Has all those 5 guys ahead of Derek Harmon.
Wow, okay.
So
yeah.
I think Harmon's a little more linear than those guys in terms of athleticism.
Still they have a 1-2 grade on Harmon, so that's 6 guys who could potentially go in the first round. Not all 6 of them are going to go.
Right. But maybe you'd be happy in any of them in a trade down situation or something like that.
Then you're looking at Jordan Birch as a round 2 guy out of Oregon, just kind of a freaky athlete.
They're calling him a tackle, though?
Well, he's a 6'4", 282.
Mm-hmm.
So
he plays edge there. But
you could kick him inside.
He might have to do the Aaron Smith move,
you could kick him inside easily in pass rushing situations. And,
sub 4 down stuff, that's what you want in there anyways.
TJ Sanders is a guy that has, they're looking at as a round 2 guys, and they're saying like his best football is ahead of him.
And I would agree with that. I mean, he played on that defensive line for South Carolina, and I mean, you look at just what they had off the edge. I mean, it was like you kind of forget about it because there was so much edge action and pressure up. But he was a guy that benefited greatly from that because quarterbacks couldn't step up when he would press in the pocket, but he didn't get the attention that the other 2 guys did.
Yeah,
and the Steelers are going to be more in that explode off the ball mentality than they used to. I still think a lot of our listeners just think LeBeau and 3-4 and
Casey Hampton,
right.
Aaron Smith,
2 gapping and let the linebackers make all the plays.
Yeah, this is not what we call force flow or funnel to the backers type of defensive line anymore.
No, they want to get up the field and make plays and be disruptive, and he certainly is.
The guys he has with a 2-3 grade on him: Shamar Turner from Texas A&M.
Production black hole.
Yeah.
Started 35 games over 4 years, and okay.
Yeah.
But he does, Josh Farmer out of Florida State.
Guy I do like.
I like him a lot as well. And they said, look, he just does the dirty work. 35-inch arms for a guy who can play on the nose.
That is tremendous.
Pretty rare,
yeah. Then you're looking at Ty Robinson, who's one of my personal favorites. And I couldn't understand when we started this draft process, Max. I'm looking at all the stuff, and I'm like, why is he in the 200s?
Yeah.
Like he was one of the first because he had the traits I was looking for in a 3-4 defensive end. Like okay, he's 6'5", he's like 290 or 300 pounds, and I immediately turned the tape on of him, and I'm like, oh, this guy's good. Why? Like he just goes in and wreck stuff. Like
gives you a Kiesel-esque type of vibe.
Yeah,
to it.
like and now he's rising up to where they're saying round 2-3 guy on him.
Well, I think also, right, it's Nebraska, right? I mean, Nebraska doesn't have the notoriety that it once had in the 90s.
Yeah.
So people tend to kind of knock them down.
That's helmet scouting.
Yeah, it's helmet scouting. It's not actual skill scouting.
Yeah, but he is a big, strong – they even say he could play the nose.
Here and there and in some schemes, right?
Not your starting nose, but could do some of that.
Sub stuff, maybe. I wouldn't put him in base, though. Yeah.
Yaha Black from Iowa, another one, 6'5", 330. These guys are all huge.
They're all humongous. And
what kind of round grade do they have on Black?
3.
Okay, I say
we do our mock drafts on Pro Football Focus. You can't even draft Yaha Black. He's not on their list. They got like 350 guys listed, and Yaha Black is not one of them.
Which is crazy.
I don't get it. Like, this guy's a good football player. And as you said, he'll be a 2 technique or a 3-4 defensive end.
And he's one of the guys we talked about at Combine, especially when his numbers came in. We're like, yep.
Yeah. 6'5", 330, and he did that?
Yeah. He's like, yep, sign me up.
Yeah. So,
again,
there's
a lot of those body type guys, though. They're
35-inch arms and
with long arms, right?
So I do think there's more guys in this draft. His next 5 guys, then Savion Jones from LSU, 6'5.5", 283, a little lighter.
He's another edge that I think his future's on the inside.
I could put put him inside in the
I put a little bit. It's just a little bit of touch of inconsistency.
Oh
with him.
Yeah.
Like not consistent hand shooting. I mean, and some of the things, the footwork things.
Yeah.
He would get double teamed and driven off the ball. Like some of those little schematic things. I mean, just from me watching LSU and calling those games.
But
like you said, but if you're not saying starter, I want to grow him into it.
He can come in and situationally be a pass rusher early on, and then we can teach him
ease him in
to hold up on the run stuff. And
Carl Dunbar rotations.
Yeah.
I mean, he can be the 5th, 6th guy coming in.
Put 10 pounds on him.
He ran a 4.76.
Right.
Exactly.
He's pretty active.
Fast.
Right?
At 283, he ran a 4.76.
That could knife an A gap in the NFL.
Yeah. Darius Alexander all the way down here
which is
pretty low.
It's kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that low.
Well, here's the thing. So
he's
here's
a little overage.
Here's what the scout said. Kind of reminds me of Montravius Adams coming out of Auburn in 2017.
Huh?
And I've talked with Mon about this, and he's like, "Look, it took me a few years to get it because in college, he was a 5-star recruit going into Auburn."
Yeah.
He said
it happens a lot to highly talented.
I could just beat the guy in front of me.
Right. I don't need technique.
I didn't need to worry about technique or anything like that. I was just one step, throw him aside, and get to the quarterback. He said, then my coaches were always telling me hand placement, do this, you got to do that. And I never paid attention to it until he got to the Steelers and said, okay, if I want to stick in the league, I'm on my 3rd team now. I got to start doing this stuff, and it's kind of changed some things for him.
Which made him stick around, and why he was a guy that we started depending on as a key rotational guy into that defensive line group.
But Alexander can play the nose. He can play outside. He can do some of those things for you. Jamari Caldwell's another one there.
Real quick, a lot of those 4 and 5-star D tackles never learn technique. They don't have to. They're bigger, stronger, faster.
They're just bouncing in the bar.
They're just throw guys around in high school. It's like a quarterback with a big arm. I don't have to be an anticipatory thrower because I can throw it a million miles an hour.
And there's not as much teaching going on at the collegiate
level,
right? No. Because you're just trying to churn guys through, and you're trying to.
Can you help me win today?
Exactly. So I think that's also going to be something that we have to look at in the future and evaluate. Are these guys learning technique? And, how many schools do they go to before it finally kicks on them? And you have to do a little bit more due diligence on it. But I think Alexander, he's one of those guys, I think he has a little bit more ahead of Montravius in that. So I think that comps a little bit off.
Yeah.
Now, he is a little bit lighter. You'd like to see him at 315, 320 doing those same things. At 305, he's going to probably put on a little bit more weight to play interior.
And he's got the body type to do it. I talked to him down at the Senior Bowl.
The Senior Bowl was good for him, though.
Yeah.
Jamari Caldwell, Omar Norman Lott. And then their last guy on here is Dion Walker, who I'm not a fan of at all.
Nah, I don't like him at all.
Yeah, so. too upright.
Yeah. He does not have knee bend at all.
At all. I said he's a younger,
little better
version of Dan McCullers.
Yeah. I think that probably be pretty accurate. Yeah.
One or two of the reps, you go, wow.
Every once in a while you go, boy, that looked pretty good. And then where's the consistency?
Yeah. And then you go, oh boy. Back to this.
Yeah, but this draft even goes deeper than just those guys. I mean, there are 25 of those guys in this draft that, this write-up could have gone on and on with that defensive tackle class to where you can get 2 of these guys. You can take one in the first round that's going to be, we'll pencil him in as that starter, and then another guy that he's going to be in the rotation somewhere in the 4th round, in the 5th round, that there's going to be some value there at that position.
Yeah, because they're going to fall. There's going to be runs at other positions. I mean, we talked about that running back class. That's going to chew up a lot with teams wanting to get that second back and just have a third back in there. Because the more I got them, the less you got, type of deal. And that's what happens at day 2, right? You start posturing. So there are going to be guys that fall because you're not looking for interior defensive linemen necessarily early on.
They didn't even mention Phillips or West or Tim Smith, who's a lot like Yahya Black. I mean, there's a lot of dudes that are going to be mid-round picks that are going to be quality players.
Yeah.
I'd love to see the Steelers get 2 of them.
No, that'd be really nice. And, I mean, like you said, people that keep mocking quarterbacks to us, I keep mocking the mockers.
Yeah. Time for them to be mocked. Yeah.
You met with one of them this morning.
Yeah, I did. I was like, dude, no, we're going. All the arrows point to this. Stop saying Jackson Dart or Shador Sanders, and I was like, it's not going to.
Jalen Milrow.
Yeah, Jalen.
Well, that's the other thing.
Jalen Milrow. I was like, Jalen Milrow. No, stop.
In the first round.
I think there's even 2 sides of that, Max. It's like everyone keeps mocking quarterbacks to the Steelers. And hardly anyone's mocking D tackles to the Steelers. I mean, you'll still see corners.
I've seen corners and receivers.
Right,
I'm
like
Ted
it's a
McMillan,
D
I
tackle.
think on one of them. I was like, listen, first of all, Ted's not making it that far, and B, no, we don't. Did you not see the DK Metcalf trade?
Yeah, right. The second round pick was a wide receiver.
Yes, we've already picked the wide receiver.
It's going to be a D tackle.
Yeah. So I mean, just if you're reading the mock drafts, and they're going to start coming out even more as we get closer and closer to the draft. realize that the Steelers are taking a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
We're 26 days out, guys.
Yeah.
Stop being salacious.
Yeah. Look at the holes in the roster. Look at the team building. Look at the needs. Look at what's available.
Really, the only other position I could see is if, like, Omarion Hampton is available at 21, and I'd be like, if they did that, I'd be like, all right, I get that.
I understand it, but also we've done offense the last 2 years in the first round.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to go 3 years in a row drafting offensive
Again,
players.
this draft is so deep in running backs that
I can go get them in round 3.
yeah,
Yeah, and I'm still going to get a pretty darn good one too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then that's just the way that's really the nature of that position. So,
Yeah.
anyways, let's get to a break. He's Max Starks. That's Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here in Palm Beach, Florida, here at the Breakers Hotel on the island here. The ocean just a little bit over there, and I don't know, what do they call that? Is that the
Inlet?
inlet, I guess, on the other side of us here?
Because technically it's still ocean water.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
We're about a mile. It's got to be about a mile wide.
Yeah, if that. Might even
It's not far.
Yeah, it's not far at all.
Yeah. But
I think I could jog across the bridge without going completely out of breath.
it's beautiful, though, here, and
Yeah.
if you haven't been here, you should get down here at some point. Welcome back to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and we welcome into the show the Dean of Doom, the Lord of Living in His Fears, Bob Labriola. How you doing, Labs?
I'm liking the music. I said this last week, but I just want to reiterate. I'm liking the music.
It's really growing on me.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll tell you what. If you guys wanted to, change it up every other week with the Darth Vader music.
No, that's good.
We talked about that. Yeah.
I'm not going to try and tell Justin how to do his job because Lord knows he does it a whole lot better than I could. So, but I just, that's another song that
It's a good one.
kind of, gets the juices flowing, so to speak. So
Jaws.
boys doing Palm Beach, huh?
Jaws was one of my suggestions, Labs.
Yeah, well, I am a big mouth.
We were close enough to the ocean in Palm Beach to perhaps see a shark, but we didn't.
We had a good time, all in all.
Yeah. It's
A little,
week.
little
Well, there
weary
you
today,
go.
but,
Well,
a
You
lot of
guys are
travel
young.
today.
you guys are young.
So,
Get over it.
so Bob, we've now seen the kind of rule changes / tweaks. Anything that caught your eye with what the league is passed there or didn't pass?
Very happy that the division winners, that whole system was preserved. We talked about this last week. I'm a strong believer in, winning your division is an accomplishment and it deserves to be rewarded. And I was glad that, that was maintained. The tush-push thing, it doesn't surprise me that it got tabled. I don't know that, a lot of times when the commissioner, whoever it is, Tagliabue, Roger, doesn't have a concrete, hard and fast, ironclad opinion on something, the process is, there's conversation, debate in March, and then there's another meeting in May. So between now and then, who knows? Maybe some things will crystallize or whatever. But as I said last week, I don't think that there's enough, hard and fast injury information, injury data that it would make it, a threat to player safety. And I just don't know how you get it overturned unless you have some specific hard data that you can tie to the player safety, and then it would have a chance for the people that oppose it.
It sounded like the league was kind of 50-50 on it, too. So maybe it is better just to talk about it another day,
Yeah, right. And who knows? There might be some arm twisting between now and May.
Yeah, maybe
by
some
the
lobbying,
commissioner,
right?
You know,
Yeah.
or different factions, the pros or the cons, in terms of the rule. And again, I didn't really think that had much of a chance of being banned at this point. But I was happy because every now and then a group or faction tries to get the division thing overturned, and I'm glad that was beaten back once again. I just hope that never passes.
Bob, we're now 3 weeks out from the draft, so we're getting closer and closer here, and that was kind of reiterated, when Omar Khan spoke, when Mike Tomlin spoke, even when Art Rooney, the second, spoke. Hey, look, free agency, first of all, is still ongoing. But secondly, there are also other ways to acquire players, including the draft, and Omar mentioned trades as well, that this offseason is not done yet, and really there's nothing being done on the football field at this point. So you're still in that talent acquisition period.
Yeah, and really though, what I think in terms of the Steelers at this point, the way that I would describe the franchise, and this is just my personal view of it, is they're in the information gathering stage, the pre-draft preparation stage. I think that I'm not going to rule out that there's any conversations going on about free agency. I know Omar and his staff can multitask, certainly. But at this point, the primary focus, I believe, would be on the draft prep, getting all of the information that you need / want on the draft-eligible players. I mean, you're narrowing your list down as each day goes by in terms of who are the A players, who are the B players, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you get your board set up, and you really need to, in my opinion, have another good draft. I think the Steelers have had a couple of good drafts back-to-back, and now they need another one because this, rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it, is definitely not over. It's not completed.
So, Labs, Mike Tomlin and then Omar Khan were predictably asked by the media about the Aaron Rodgers situation, and they both acknowledged it, as you know, but they didn't jump down the rabbit hole or really get really far depth into where that conversation's going. But then Mr. Rooney was asked, and were you a little shocked by the definitiveness of his statements?
No, because I really don't think that they were that definitive. I mean, I think that in the
he had a different tone though than Omar.
In the interpretation of them as being definitive, I think that's more of a hope, wishful thinking by the people listening, people who are interested in it being the situation coming to a head, being over one way or the other. And then there are certainly the factions that are rooting for that to be over one way or the other. In other words, yay or nay. But again, it's to me there was not yet trending in the right way or looking like it's going in or whatever. However, Art Rooney phrased it. If it was a court of law, there's still reasonable doubt, as they say.
Is there still as much reasonable doubt, though, after the video surfaces of him playing catch with DK Metcalf?
Again, I think, you can be trending one way or the other, but, I don't know that I would vote with a lot of assuredness one way or the other. Again, I mean, I think that as I said, everybody kind of wants it to be over. And then within that group that wants it to be over, they want it to be resolved in the way that they want it to be resolved. So there's a hope there. But, I mean, seriously, You cannot say, I would not say beyond a reasonable doubt that Aaron Rodgers will be a Pittsburgh Steeler in 2025, nor would I say that he would not be a Pittsburgh Steeler beyond a reasonable doubt. I think that, just the nature of the guy himself, I think it's foolish to think you got it figured out. Until he decides. And, so that's where we are.
Deadlines weren't discussed or anything, but I've got to think that they need an answer by the draft. Don't you agree?
Well, let me say this. I think they need an answer by by OTAs. That's when I would, if it were me, I would want an answer by OTAs, and I would want him at OTAs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Without a
None
doubt,
of this
yeah.
going to Egypt or any of that. That stuff that happened last year. Maybe that was mini camp.
That was mini camp. You skipped to go to Egypt, yes.
Okay.
That's not going to fly. Either.
Vacation of a lifetime.
Right. Yeah. Buy the documentary. See the pyramids.
The pyramids have been there a long time.
Right.
Probably will be after he retires too.
Discovery Channel or whatever.
Yeah.
Pyramids. But I just think that it's important for the receivers and the quarterback to have some sort of rapport. Certainly the DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers little exercise was a step in that direction. I've also seen speculation that maybe Aaron Rodgers wanted to see who his number one receiver would have left in the tank, or what he could bring, or because they never played together. If he would end up in Pittsburgh, but Russell Wilson, I thought last year, he did a lot of things starting with OTAs in terms of winning the locker room, learning his teammates learning him, all of that kind of stuff, and I think that that's important. So as I said, in my opinion, if it was up to me, which it is not, I would want it to be done. To me, the deadline would not be the draft. You'd like it by then, certainly, but the deadline for me would be whatever the first day of OTAs is.
And that's been kind of my stance on this all along, Bob, that if he's coming, he has to be all in. It can't be just 1 foot here and 1 foot in Egypt, or wherever, on top of Mount Sinai, or wherever it is that he wants to go. And you have to be part of this. You have to be present, and that's, to your point, is what Russell Wilson did last year. I think there's a misnomer out there that Cam Hayward and Minkah Fitzpatrick and T.J. Watt were recruiting Russell Wilson. It was the other way around. Russell Wilson reached out to those guys and called those guys and said, "Hey, look, I want to come. I'm thinking about signing with the Steelers. I want to check with you guys first and make sure you guys are okay with me joining that locker room." So I do think that there's a difference there. And let's be honest, in many cases, employees, which is what Aaron Rodgers would be, will get away or try to get away with whatever his employer will put up with, in terms of, I don't have to go to minicamp.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to go. Well, I got this vacation planned.
I just think the Steelers and Jets are such massively different organizations.
If the Jets had put their foot down and said, "No, you got to be here. You got to be here for minicamp. These are mandatory."
Mm-hmm.
Then I just think that maybe their season goes differently last year. I just think when Aaron Rodgers goes to the GM and says, "Hey, go get me Alan Lazard and all my
Randall Cobb
and all these guys," and then they do it. Go hire Nathaniel Hackett, who had lasted not even a half a season as a head coach in Denver,
and they do it.
Right. I just think it sets a bad precedent. And so, I think there are some boundaries that need to be set up.
And that may have happened during that meet and greet.
Right.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the Southside
And that might be
facility.
what he is. Why is he not signing? Well, he may be mulling this. Look, I'm not going to have the control that I did in Green Bay or that I did in New York.
It might be even similar to Russell Wilson. It sounded like his first year in Denver with Hackett.
Yeah.
He took advantage of the situation to some degree, or thought maybe he was bigger in the organization, and Sean Payton didn't see it that way at all. And then he comes here and was great.
And you learn. I guess I can't do those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big difference, though, I think, with Russell Wilson in Denver was Sean Payton did not inherit that move. Sean Payton was not on board with that move. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Sean Payton inherited
He did inherit it.
He did inherit that move.
He did
and
not initiate.
It was not his
the move.
style of quarterback.
I misspoke there. So, that's a little bit different, certainly, with the Jets, I believe. I mean, I'm not that sure about the Jets, but I will say this. It seems to me that, that Mike Tomlin is in on this and has to be in favor of it, I would believe. And so, whatever was talked about during that meet and greet at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex, and Mike Tomlin was there, I'm sure that there were a lot of those kinds of issues brought up, discussed, whatever, what expectations are for what. And, it just seems to me that for a player who has been in the NFL as long as Aaron Rodgers has, when OTAs and minicamp is, you got a decent idea.
Yeah.
You may miss it by a couple of days, maybe a week if you're forecasting it. But, I mean, it's not like the fact that OTAs start in late May and minicamp is, sometime around the middle of around the middle of June is a big shock.
Right.
It's been that way forever. So,
you're a 20-year veteran. I think you know when it's coming.
Yeah, right. And certainly his agent is,
Right.
There's just too much experience, been there, done that in terms of an NFL calendar for, that to be a surprise. So, we'll see what happens.
So, Labs, I think we all agree that the big people on defense is the biggest need, especially on that side of the ball, but with the whole team, D-line. And I'd love to see him add 2. But the more I look at outside linebacker, inside linebacker, safety, corner, I think they might be pretty close to being done. I mean, I think the depth chart, they'll tweak it. They may add a Quan Alexander at camp or a 5th-round pick or something like that. But for the most part, I think every position but one is basically done on defense.
I don't. You done at corner?
If the right guy falls to me, I'll take him, but it's not a need.
You got Darius Slay on a 1-year deal,
right?
Corey Trice is one slip on wet grass away from, another knee injury. I mean, I'm certainly not rooting for that or
right.
Trying to jinx him or anything. But I don't think your cornerback situation is top of the depth chart stuff is.
You wouldn't be comfortable going in with this group. You want at least one more?
I'm not saying I wouldn't be comfortable going in with this group, but I would like to have a young guy who is, top of the depth chart potential kind of player added.
Even a 4th-round pick or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that would help me not live in my fears. Maybe cut down on the.
Yeah, we are talking to the Lord of living in his fears
music.
here.
Right. The
Understood.
Music,
yeah.
My entry music. But, corner to me is, and how many, you never have enough of those guys. I think on your 53-man roster, you could keep 6 corners.
Mm-hmm.
You got 6 corners you like? I don't.
I mean, like Beanie doesn't count to me as one of the 6. I mean, if he makes it, fine, but I'm not, right. I'm not chiseling him on a stone as a roster guy.
Well, okay, then you.
To your point, the 6. I'm not counting him as a 6. If he makes a team, fine, but I'm not like, he's definitely a Steeler.
Okay.
Which is
I'm
backing up your point. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm looking at him as one of my 6, and I still want to add one.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I can see another. I just don't.
Don't sleep on Brandon Echols.
I do like the Echols
sleeping
versatility.
on anybody.
I think he's a good.
But,
I think he's a good player.
That's fine, and I'm not saying he's not. I'm talking about numbers.
Sure, I hear you.
Numbers.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because
Injuries are coming.
injuries are coming.
Just like winter, except we're coming out of winter. Bob, with the draft upcoming here in Green Bay in a few weeks, and of course next year at this time we'll be in the preparation for the draft here in Pittsburgh. Are you going to be watching the draft a little bit differently this year, knowing that?
Let me tell you this: the preparation for the draft in Pittsburgh, we're having weekly meetings about that already.
Really?
I mean, so yeah, right. The plans. There are a lot of plans for what's being called the mobile exhibit.
Yeah,
that's going to be a part of the presentation for the draft in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of things that have been settled already with respect to that. What it's going to look like.
It's like hosting a Super Bowl.
Right. I don't know anything about hosting a Super Bowl, but I'm just telling you that the work on this has already started and has been. We've been doing this since January. So,
wow.
It's not something that I don't think you can kind of put together in a short amount of time, especially in terms of some of the things that they want to do and showcase, and for the fans, because it is in Pittsburgh, but this is an NFL event.
Yeah.
I mean, there are going to be people. There will be Steelers fans there certainly, and all of that good stuff. But there's going to be a lot of people who are fans of other teams that are going to come, and they're going to wear their jerseys, their Eagles jerseys or Browns jerseys or whatever. Drive to Pittsburgh because that's one of the things that I thought made Pittsburgh an attractive spot was the number of fan bases that are, or let me say this, the number of teams whose home cities are within a short drive of Pittsburgh. Both towards the Midwest, towards the east, a little bit to the south, maybe down to Nashville, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, all those places. So I think a lot of people from fans of other teams are going to make the trip to Pittsburgh, either because they have been to previous drafts and enjoyed them, or because they have heard a lot of or watched them on TV and it looks like a lot of fun. Hey, Pittsburgh is close. Let's try that. So, the fact that the draft is coming and Green Bay is having it, in terms of watching it, me personally, I don't really, I won't say I don't care, but I don't think that what Green Bay does has a big impact on what, Pittsburgh and the Steelers want to do. And in terms of the 2026 draft, I'm just looking at, my own particular little slice of heaven here in terms of, the committee that I'm on and the plans for that are ongoing.
It does mean that 25 days from now, Pittsburgh will officially be on the clock.
On the clock, huh? Right.
Yeah, well.
Pretty cool.
And that clock, everybody thinks that clock is set for April 2026. I'm telling you, that clock is set to strike the witching hour many, many months before that.
Absolutely. Well, Bob, since you are so busy, we will let you get back to
back
get
to
that
all ironed out before we talk next Wednesday.
Right. Yeah, well, you guys will be the first to know.
That's Bob Labriola, editor of Steelers Digest, and coming up out of the crypt. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and we're going through the Twitter questions here, as we do on Thursdays. And Steel Warrior 55 has a question for you, Matt. How did you both become so awesome? Big fan of the show. And I'm going to say, we got to credit the people that make the show work. We got Justin over here. We got Tyler over here, making sure the show allows us to do what we do.
So when I was very new to Twitter, on ESPN, I'm like, why does anyone want me on Twitter? Do they really care that I ordered a pizza or whatever? You know, like, who cares what I have to say? And I remember asking Adam Schefter, I'm like, well, how do I get to like a couple million followers? And he's like, if everyone knew that answer, son, we'd all be doing it. It's not going to give those secrets away.
Yeah. Appreciate the love there.
You may overestimate us a little.
Yeah. Joe Markusik asks, guys, love the show.
Nice.
Another one. Hypothetically speaking, if the Steelers are able to trade back in the first round, do you draft a quarterback there, or do you still wait until rounds 4 through 7? I am waiting.
To me, the quarterback situation is Milroe is the guy I'll pay for. I still have an affinity for Shuck, but I don't know where he fits with Rodgers and Rudolph. That's a little hairier all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I'm just looking for day 3 value or none at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if they get none, and boy, they got 2 D linemen and everything else.
Because if it's assuming that Rodgers signed, you've got Mason Rudolph as your number 2
for 2 years. I mean, I think the 2-year deal for him gives me a lot of stability.
Some
right
things.
Yeah.
Joe asks, at pick 21, the run on defensive tackles has already started. Okay. Do the Steelers still take Harmon over Golden? Ibuka, defensive tackle is the biggest need, but the offense has been so bad for the last 4 or 5 years. It'd be nice to have as many weapons as possible. Well, Joe, the Steelers have addressed the wide receiver position by going out and getting DK Metcalf, who is
certainly alluring to throw.
He's better than Golden or Ibuka.
Right. I understand what he's saying. Like,
I do too, but I'm taking
Golden,
the defensive
Pickens,
tackle.
Me too. But Pickens, Golden, Metcalf, Freiermuth would be pretty darn nice.
Yeah.
And Rodgers, play more 11. I get it. There's a point where I could go that way.
If the run and all those guys are gone, then okay, I'll consider a wide receiver, but I don't think they're all going to be gone.
Would you definitely do Harmon over Golden?
Yes.
I think I would too.
Because, again, there just aren't as many guys with that particular body type.
Because to do it, I'm not going to get one till round 3, too. And then I feel like I've shortchanged my deal.
Right, yeah.
Which I don't want to do in this draft. That's priority number 1. I do not want to.
As somebody mentioned in a previous question, now you're going to give up 299 yards rushing again, potentially. R.J. Poyer says, I'm going to ask part 2. He asked a question in the previous. Can you each rank your personal top 3 true positional needs for the Steelers before the draft? Let's assume Rodgers eventually signs. And can you each list your top 3 biggest wants in the draft as well? Well, your positional needs and your wants, probably the same.
I would say it differently.
Okay.
O-line's a want for me.
Okay.
Across the board. Maybe a future guard, a tackle. Those are wants for me. Just because of the nest and the team building stuff I want.
See, I also think it's a need because of the depth that you don't have there right now, and the fact that, say, Amalu is a free agent. That's why, if I take a 4th round, I
guess we have to figure out what the line of demarcation between need and want is.
My biggest needs are defensive line.
That's a need.
That's a need.
Is a second D line a need or a want?
I think it's a need. I'd like to have 2.
That's what I was saying. My 3 needs might be D line, running back.
Yeah, running back is definitely in there.
Yeah.
So if I say defensive line, running back, and if I can get another offensive lineman, because that's a need.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to need 9 of those guys.
I want 11.
Yeah.
That's my magic numbers.
Right.
I want 11.
I've got 11 that have,
I want 11 NFL players.
Right.
I don't need 11,
I've got some guys who are on the team, Dylan Cook and guys like that who have played in the NFL.
I want him to be 11.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. Yeah.
And so that's a want. In terms of the wants, you might
like talking to Labs yesterday, another corner is a want.
A quarterback at this time would
not
be
a need.
A want. It's not a need if you've signed Rodgers and Mason Rudolph, as we just said.
Just back to the Golden conversation, but cut it in half. A 3rd-round receiver would be nice.
Yeah, if it's the right guy.
Route runner, right. Yeah, it'd be nice, but I can live without it.
If he's also a return guy, that's all the better.
I look at, like, Williams from Washington State. If he's there in the 4th round, maybe he's not a returner, but he's a good football player, a little different than what they have.
So that's where I'm at with that. I think
number 1 need is a D lineman.
Yeah.
Young one.
Matt DeSico says, love the show and no hot take mentality. Well, appreciate that. Is there someone currently on the roster that could be a breakout candidate for next season you're a daisy if you do.
Well done. Lineman galore.
I think Roman Wilson fits into that.
Yeah. I don't think we're saying he's going to be a Pro Bowler, but he could be a breakout.
He catches
number
3. He catches 35 passes this year. That's
pretty
good.
If he establishes himself as a really good number 3 receiver, that's a breakout to me.
If you're talking about a guy who's a breakout candidate to maybe make the Pro Bowl or something like that, how about Jaylen Warren?
I'd say Warren and Peyton Wilson.
Yeah,
could get expanded roles. They will get expanded roles.
They're going to play a lot.
Yeah.
Keanu Benton's a good one that
yeah
could take that next step and be a 5 or 6 sack guy.
Mm-hmm. You'd love it if it's somebody you're not thinking about, like Trice. Someone that comes out of nowhere and is like, whoa, we got a dude here. It happens every year.
Oh, yeah.
You see Warren coming. You know, right.
Yeah, so I think that's –
yeah.
But the offensive line is –
yeah, Fotanu and Jones are the ones that jump off the page to me.
Short Jr. says, favorite Steelers team of all time?
I have no clue.
All time is a long time. For me, I have a lot of fond memories of covering that Super Bowl in 2005 just because it was such an odd run through the Super Bowl. To go on the road 4 straight weeks like that, or 4 out of 5 straight weeks. And see that team win on the road like that. And, that covering that season was one of the more interesting seasons in the time that I've done this.
Yeah. Mine would definitely be probably like the LeBeau era because that's more my age. Like the 70s, I was too young. Now I adore my job, wouldn't change it for anything. But I'm not a fan.
Yeah, it's different.
3 River days when I'm tailgating like crazy and swinging a terrible towel. I'd pick one of those.
For me, it's more involved with my memories of what I did during those times.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was 20 coming home.
All right, we got to roll through some questions. Dale and Matt, great insightful show. My question is: everyone seems so nonchalant about Najee's replacement. 1,000 yards in 4+ seasons is not an easy task. So my question is: speculate on getting that production. Wouldn't you have to draft Hampton in the first round? Not in this draft.
Not in this draft. But I do think the point. His first
part is very valid.
Because of the reliability.
Yeah.
We may have guys that can't pick up blitzes and are fumbling left and right. If you lead the league in running back fumbles all of a sudden, it's like,
it's not good. Yeah, not good.
Right. Why do we lose those games all of a sudden?
Yeah, but you can get guys in this draft that step in and produce. Steelers running back situation in the draft later rounds or somebody who can make an instant impact this year. Well, they could be the same thing.
For what position?
Running back.
Yeah.
I can get a 3rd or 4th round guy who will make an instant impact this year in this draft.
I think you get a 5th rounder that's your second leading rusher.
Let's remember, Jaylen Warren was an undrafted free agent. He made an impact his first year with the team.
I expect there to be more running room.
Yeah.
And better blocking.
Chris Maxwell says, the best show hands down. Appreciate that.
Nice.
Arthur Smith likes to run zone running scheme. Who are your guys' favorite zone running schemes? Caleb Johnson comes to mind.
Johnson's a good pick.
And who doesn't fit in the scheme from this draft?
I need to do a little more homework on that, on who's run. You can find the information of percentage, half of which I believe. I'm not sure the Chargers are the best in the world at that thing.
Yeah, especially at the college level.
Right. I do think the Tutons and Sampsons and those type of guys have that outside stretch, stick your foot in the ground, Clinton Portis go, Shanahan feel to them.
Yeah.
I think that's something that they're pursuing pretty heavy.
The thing about this draft is these guys set the combine record for 40 time for speed. Mm-hmm. And to run that outside zone, there's some patience involved.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to get to the edge. Yeah, you better be able to get to the edge.
Yep.
Michael Adesso says, is there a scenario at 21 where you would be okay with the Steelers drafting one of the O-linemen? I'm trying to think of the worst-case scenario where all 4 defensive linemen, Hampton, Golden, and T-Mac and Shedeur are all gone. What would be next? Offensive line or cornerback best available?
We kind of addressed that earlier.
I think it'd be cornerback. If all those guys go early, Barron's going to be there, or Will Johnson's going to be there. Like, I got to take
maybe
that guy.
I could be convinced of Golden. You know, just like that's the best guy there. The only thing I could see, and I thought about this after we answered the one question, was what if you move from 21 to 30 and he kind of got shut out on D tackles and you have extra picks and Simmons is sitting there and you're like, all right, I'll just take him and I'll get
Maybe
D-line
in
in
that
round
situation.
2 and 3 because
Yeah.
I have a second and third,
Matt Sable asks, do you think the Steelers have any interest in safety in the draft after they sent a DB coach to South Carolina's pro day for Emuwari? Well, South Carolina has other defensive backs than just Emuwari.
And I don't think the answer is yes. I think maybe a 7th-round special teamer.
Yeah.
I have hope for Watts.
Yeah.
I mean, and Thornhill's not here.
JB asks, who is the most underrated player you'd consider drafting in the 3rd or 4th round that isn't a quarterback? P.S. Get Bob Labs the Vader music.
Nice.
I keep coming back to Robinson from Nebraska. I think he's being slept on.
I keep coming back to Martinez from
Martinez
Miami.
is another good
right.
one.
I mean, I think he'd be a real favorite around here.
You mentioned the wide receiver from Washington State.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
Right.
Edwards. John Phillips. If the Steelers don't address the quarterback position in this year's drafts, who are next year's top quarterback prospects? I've heard Arch Manning, but that's about it. That's one of the things we talk about with this. You don't know what's going to be available next year.
I mean, I don't know. I know Nussmeier, Aller, those are the names that are being thrown around. Everyone's talking about the march for Arch. Whatever.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We got some other questions here we didn't get to, but we're out of time.
Yeah.
We'll try to answer those tomorrow.
That's cool.
On tomorrow's show, guys. Some of these guys, Joey Bag of Donuts has a question here. Mike Foster has a question here. Long-time
open.
listeners to the show. I know these guys are so we'll get to those questions tomorrow, but we got to wrap things up today. A lot of questions. Wow.
Yeah, good stuff.
Jeez.
Great feedback.
Appreciate it.
Go hit those like buttons.
Absolutely. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, we put together our top 21 list for the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft at pick 21, and I thought we'd do that again to circle back around here now that all the pro days are pretty much done. The combine is in the books. We're down to the part now where teams will just start stacking their boards.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at where we would stack the players who, again, the way this works, if you haven't heard this before, 21 players the Steelers would take, or we feel the Steelers would take at pick 21.
You have to make a pick.
Somebody's going to be there,
right.
and it may not be the exact way that the draft is going to go, but these are the players.
It won't be.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it won't be. I mean, it's going to be.
There'll be some players who aren't on our list who are going to be picked ahead of the Steelers.
Many, you hope.
Yeah.
I mean, you hope to end up with the 8th or 9th guy on your board. I mean, because it's your board. It's not a generic board. It's not Dane's top 100 or Todd's top 150 or whatever. Right. It's if I'm the Steelers and this guy's gone, who do I take? If that guy's gone, who do I take? So yeah, let's dig in. I mean, a lot of this is positional importance.
Yeah. All right. So I think we start here with. Do you start with Cam Ward?
No.
You start with Travis Hunter.
Yeah. Do you disagree?
I do, actually.
Do you? Well, let's fight it out.
First of all,
it doesn't
neither
matter.
one of them's going to. I mean, we're just talking semantics here.
Yeah.
The quarterback in that situation would always take precedence over the position player.
Agreed. Except I think Hunter is so special, and I see enough of a corner and receiver need with the Steelers that I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be my quarterback, and I'm still drafting one next year. I just don't love Ward enough to.
If Wards were available at 21, you would take him, and it would take you out of the quarterback market next year.
100%. Right.
He's the best quarterback prospect in the draft this year. He's probably, if he had come out in last year's draft, he would have been in my top 5 somewhere.
That's why That's why I would pick Hunter over him, because I like Ward a ton. I would just aim a little higher, hopefully. You know what I mean? We're really splitting hairs.
I get it.
That's what you're saying,
again,
right.
Neither one of them is going to be there.
No, of course they're not.
So I'm just going to put them down.
Yeah, that's fine. So number 3 is a conversation.
Yeah. Because I'm not going to put the edge rushers on there.
No, but Carter would be in my top 21.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a point where you'd take him. I don't think I don't know if there'll be any other.
I don't think in our initial rankings on this, we have Mason Graham 3.
He would be lower for me.
He's going to be way lower for me.
Yeah. I think Carter's still my 3. But, there aren't many that I think are great here.
Yeah.
I don't know who to put in that spot.
Yeah. I guess you wouldn't turn your.
That's the thing, is that you just have such a high grade on him. Actually,
Would you take Genty over Carter? I would.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, you get to pick. Genie comes out of the bottle. You want Genty or Carter? Add to this team right now. It only costs you the 21st pick. Genty.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
That's actually a good thought.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so I'll put Carter 4.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we're splitting hairs. None of these guys are going to be there. But,
Right.
you know, that's the magic of it all.
At 5 is where it starts to get interesting.
Mm-hmm. I don't know who that player is.
You know who it might be? Tyler Warren.
Ooh. I understand where you're coming from. I was thinking Will Johnson. Do you start already getting into the D lineman?
That's the next question.
Right.
Is that do you head straight there?
I actually did a DK podcast on Golden after we were done yesterday. Just saying I could understand taking him at 21. I'm not sure I'm taking him at 5, but I'm not taking any of these guys at 5, obviously. Right. I don't know who this answer is.
Based on what you need. We had Walter Nolan, at least I had Walter Nolan there the first time through.
Mm-hmm.
I might still be there.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not sure I'm taking Warren or Loveland or Golden.
He's my number 1 rated defensive tackle.
Over any defensive tackle.
Yes.
My choice of D tackles. Doesn't mean he's the 5th best player on the
draft.
That doesn't matter.
Different things.
That's way two different things. I don't know what other names to put there. I mean, I might go D tackle right
exactly.
now. Right.
Yeah.
You know,
it might be
4.
Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon,
Mm-hmm.
you know, right down the list.
I would probably take Graham over Harmon.
You mean Grant? Or Mason Graham?
Mason Graham.
I don't know if I would.
I know. That's a tough one, too.
He doesn't
right.
fit the scheme.
Right. It's a tough one.
It's where are you playing Mason Graham? In a
Ogunjobi.
In a 3-4 defense with the short arms?
Right. I don't like it at all.
I would
rather he would be my Ogunjobi.
I would rather have Harmon.
I get it.
He's got the better
put the next
better
3
body.
as D tackles then?
I think you do.
Yeah, there's not a. If Jamar Chase was in this draft, it'd be different. If
right,
Jalen Ramsey was in this draft, it'd be different.
Those guys would be different, but they're not. They're not here. You know.
I mean, if Penei Sewell was in this draft, I'd take him over those guys. I mean, just because they're such great prospects.
Yeah.
It's just, there aren't many great prospects. I think the next 3 are D tackles.
Do you like them in that order? Nolan, Grant,
Harmon would be last.
Nolan, Grant, Harmon.
Sure. I think Golden would be next for me.
I think looking at it, I might. If Will Johnson was there,
he's the other one.
Jahdae Barron was there.
I would take Golden over Barron. I don't know if I'd take Golden over Johnson.
I mean, Johnson's long.
Let's put Johnson down here.
Yeah, I think he's.
Yeah.
More.
Oh, I'm a fan. I mean, it's hard to find that guy.
Yeah, guy that's 6'2" and 200 pounds, and
I'm not sure I'd take Harmon over Johnson.
I would. I think it's a bigger.
It's a way bigger need.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that part, right?
I mean, that's where this becomes. Well, best player available. No, best player available at a position of need.
No, for my team.
Yeah,
right.
For
all
my
I care
team.
about is my team.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of the other guys we had up there, Campbell, Tyler Warren.
Mm-hmm. I would take Golden and Barron over Warren.
Yeah.
Or any O-lineman.
Barron versus Golden to me is a real conversation.
It is.
Because I think
if there's any thoughts that Pickens could be traded,
I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't either, but I do think some of the things I mentioned in the podcast is, okay, Golden's your pick at 21. All right. And then Tennessee calls you and says, you want the second pick in the second round for Pickens? I got this Ward guy, but I got nobody to catch the ball. Like, oh, well, Harmon might be there. you know what I mean? Like you might.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why you do your due diligence.
You do all
on
that,
some of
right?
these
Exactly,
guys.
right.
You know, but
I just like Golden's game a lot. Again, that's not a knock on Barron.
yeah,
And
I mean, Barron does a lot of different stuff.
if you had 3 stud
He
receivers,
takes the ball away.
isn't such a bad thing either. You just play more 11.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight either way on those.
Either
two.
way.
I mean, we
All
can
right,
put them in either order. That's fine.
We'll put Golden there.
Then I'm probably getting into like Mason Graham and Warren and things that won't happen, but you'd have to consider if they fell that far.
I just don't see Mason Graham fitting. He doesn't
I
fit
don't
the
really
defense. He's got short arms.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 300-pound defensive tackle with short arms, and he's always on the ground.
I know.
Now, he makes play. He's a 4-3 defensive tackle.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
There's a lot of they're in a 4-man front a ton.
I understand that. But am I taking a guy who's going to be a situational pass rusher? Am I going to take DeMarvin Leal in the first round? No.
If Leal was lining up on every nickel and dime snap.
But they didn't, they took DeMarvin Leal with that thought in mind. But they took him in the third round, not in the first round, not with the 21st
I mean, this guy's
pick.
a much better prospect than Leal was.
I understand
right.
that. But I'm not taking a situational pass rusher in the first round. And that
makes it sound like you would hardly play that.
That's what his ceiling is.
Right.
Is a situational pass rusher. He's not going to play.
But that situation's like 2/3 of the time.
Yeah, but even
it's not
even
a
at that,
once in a while thing.
Those guys don't play all the time. Like you're still going to rotate.
I think when we get down to like 17, 18, 19, Alfred Collins is going to come up. Tyreek Williams is going to come up. Alexander.
I think those guys might play more.
I'd say, would you take Graham ahead of that tier? I mean, how far are we dropping him? I mean, if he's not the top 21, I could understand it. I mean, but you have to have that conversation.
If he could play the nose, if I thought he could play the nose.
I don't think he can play the nose.
And that's where I'm going.
Right.
He can't. He's not. He can't do it.
I think he's Ogunjobi in this defense. Right.
And
it's not ideal.
Ogunjobi last year played 40% of the snaps.
Right.
That's why they felt they could release him.
Mm-hmm. Then he was never a great fit to begin with.
Yeah. If I'm going to draft,
I bet Ogunjobi's a little heavier too.
He is. He's
yeah.
And his arms are way longer.
Oh, no.
I mean, he had some of the traits that you're looking for there.
Mm-hmm.
This guy doesn't.
So you would take Collins and those guys,
They're
Alexander.
Better.
They're way better fits.
I want the scheme fit. I'm not going to take I'm not in the first round of the draft. I am not taking a square peg and pounding it into a round hole.
Right.
Now,
no, I get
if
that.
If that's what I got to do in the third or fourth round because that's what's left, that's different.
Well, that's different, right?
But I've got my pick of all but 20 players in the draft at this point. Mm-hmm. I can take the guy who's a scheme fit.
100%. I get it. I mean, I don't have a problem with him not being in the top 21.
I don't love the prospect.
I don't either. I think he's been overrated since the beginning.
I think I had him when we did our initial rankings for the triple take. I think I had him third among my defensive tackles, and that was a stretch.
Yeah. I think he's a little overblown nationally. He's not a very good athlete. Okay. Who's next then?
Okay, so we just had Matthew Golden, Jahdae Barron.
How many we got so far? Like 8?
We got 10.
Okay.
We're up to 10. Omari and Hampton's got to be in here somewhere.
Is Shedeur Sanders in consideration? I'm just thinking position by position.
I think he's in consideration.
I mean, he could be within the next 11.
Somewhere in that group, yeah.
I think Hampton could be in consideration.
I would consider some of the offensive tackles.
Yeah, I would say this neighborhood I might consider tackles and tight ends.
Yeah.
It's not the position of need, but eventually they're too good to pass up.
Yeah, I mean, if I got to take Will Campbell and I do move him to guard next year, or I've got him as my swing guy this year, and next year he's a guard, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he might be better than McCormick or Siamalu today,
right?
Yeah, and then Siamalu leaves, and right.
How
about McMillan? I think he'll be in the list.
He'll be on the list, not this high.
I would take the tackles over him.
Yeah.
Would you take Hampton over McMillan?
Yes. Fills a way bigger need.
Way bigger need, but there's a lot more of them. Hampton might be a better back than McMillan is a receiver, too.
Yeah, he's a better.
Yeah.
Like, he is a top 32 back all day long, whereas if McMillan's in last year's draft, he's the 5th or 6th best wide receiver, if that.
Mm-hmm.
If that.
Is there a corner that's still in the mix?
Let's see. We've got 3 on the board.
If I knew Ravel was clean as could be, I'd consider it, but I don't know how you could put him in there now.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that.
Yeah. I think it's O-line time.
I think it is O-line time. You just don't turn your nose up at a good offensive lineman.
I would do Campbell and Membo in either order.
Either order. Yeah,
right,
they're
right,
both
right.
really good, solid prospects.
Right, right.
But
I don't know that I'd have Banks in my top 21.
I don't think so.
I don't see enough of him being a difference maker.
And Membo's a better athlete than what I gave him credit for the first time around through this. I thought he was going to be strictly a guard.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I don't think the difference, splitting the hairs between the two. I think Membo he's a right tackle.
I think he's a right tackle or a guard.
Whereas Campbell could play left tackle, right tackle.
Yeah. Agreed.
So,
and in the O-line, just give me 5 great players. We'll figure out where they're at in some
absolutely.
way. Right. That's why I pay a coach.
So that gives us 12 players. We need 9 more.
Would Warren be next?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Over Hampton, over McMillan.
Well, no, you know what? Not over Hampton.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
I think
if they're both sitting there at 21, you'd take Hampton.
He fills the much bigger need, and
yeah.
And then I think you put Tyler Warren at 14.
I'd take Warren over McMillan.
Yeah.
Would you take Loveland over McMillan?
I think I would.
I think I would too. He's a really good player too.
Yeah. I think he and Warren are right next to each other, and that.
What about? I'm just throwing names out. What about Simmons? What about Shador? What about any edge?
I think we're about where the point now where Shador at 16 would be.
I mean,
a consideration. I would take the defensive tackles ahead of him. I would take Amari and Hampton.
Would you take the next group of defensive tackles over Shador? Malik and Collins and it's tough.
That's a hard question.
That's a real tough one.
That's a tough question.
Would you take Booker?
I'm not taking a pure guard.
I don't think he's a good fit either.
Yeah.
Would you take Zabel? Would you take Simmons?
I wouldn't take Zabel either because I've got a center, so he's not going to fill in
I'm looking
there.
at him as my left guard.
So he's going to be a guard.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking a guard in the first round. Yeah.
Simmons would probably be my highest graded O lineman.
Yeah.
Because I don't need him right now anyway. If he's not ready, I might not need him next year, though.
That's the problem.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's only a tackle.
And you're not going to kick him in the guard.
And I don't know that I want to kick. If Fuatanu and Jones are a great group of first-round tackles, I don't want to move one of them to guard.
No.
I mean, you could, but I don't want to.
Yeah. People, well, maybe you move to Fuatanu to guard. Why? Because he's got 35-inch arms.
Right, yeah, right.
Like, no, I'm not moving him to guard just because.
Right. I mean, the tackles I take in mocks are third-rounders. You know,
right.
They're not – I have to move somebody to get them in.
Yeah.
Did we put Loveland in?
Yeah. He's at 15.
I might go McMillan next.
Okay. Over Shador Sanders?
That's what I'm sitting here thinking. That's my tough call.
I think you take the quarterback just, again, because.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we don't talk highly of Sanders, but I still think he's going to be an NFL starting quarterback.
Right, yeah.
I mean, right.
Again, I think the ceiling is Tua.
Yeah.
But
I would rather aim higher next year.
But
there's a price point here.
There's a price point, yeah.
Right.
And I've got a bunch of players on this list that I would take ahead of him.
Mm-hmm. McMillan next. Tyleik Williams. Collins. I don't think any of the safeties.
Here's the problem with Tep McMillan for this particular team.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 outside receivers.
Right.
Outside the number of guys. Where's he playing at?
That's the thing.
I mean, I guess you could. Yeah,
I'd still take him over Ibuka.
Yeah.
Would you take him over Burden?
Yeah. I don't
I mean, it doesn't mean he has to be the 21.
I don't love Burden.
I don't love any of them.
No, that becomes the issue then.
Right.
I don't love any of those wide receivers.
And that's actually a chance that all of them are sitting there at 21. Now,
Without a doubt.
so will be some other names we mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Nolan.
We
too,
don't have
right?
a single. We got one edge rusher on there. There might be 6 or 7 that go before the Steelers.
Right. Would you consider putting any of those on now? Like you taking those guys over Ted McMillan? I don't even know which one I'd pick.
Yeah.
I mean, like
or a
Green's
Jihad
fine,
Campbell or
right,
something
right.
that. I don't need it.
They'd be fighting for playing time.
Yeah.
And have a tough fight on their hands.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
and if they do happen to win it, I've just benched a really good football player.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think the nature of this exercise is, okay, I'm going to draft Green and then trade Highsmith. Pickens is a little different because maybe he gets traded, but Highsmith's not getting traded.
No.
I mean, like,
Right.
there's no intentions of trading him. You
Right.
know. Corner 3, wide receiver 3, Jackson Dart,
No.
running back 3.
No. I just don't see that either.
O-line 3,
Maybe.
probably Simmons for me.
I think you're looking at
Maybe Banks. Banks might be a guard.
defensive lineman.
Now, I say the next couple D linemen I like. I mean, they're probably second-round players.
I could see Banks here.
Yeah.
Just because, again, maybe he is a guard.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guard that can play tackle.
Let's put him in
Or a
next.
tackle that can play guard.
There's a lot of value there.
Yeah. No, I think so.
Yeah.
Even though the Texas offensive tackles or offensive linemen in general haven't really worked out.
No, that's a good point.
You put Emuari on the list somewhere.
I was thinking that too.
He's just too good of a – I mean, your safeties, other than Minka, aren't signed past next year.
Right. I get it. I mean, would you consider like Jihad Campbell?
No. I'm good at inside linebacker. I don't need to add another guy to that.
Right. I can't imagine taking Nware over Alfred Collins. If it came down to it, like, boy, all the wrong guys are gone, which means 4 or 5 defensive tackles already went.
Yeah.
I think I got to grab Williams or Collins or Alexander.
I think the biggest problem
it's a hard exercise.
is that the cornerback class, after those first 3 guys, nobody's really distinguished themselves.
We counting Hunter as one of the 3?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say I'm not sure who our corner 4 would be then.
That's the problem.
Right.
And are they worth a first-round draft pick? There's something – they've either got some kind of issue, either medical or play style or whatever.
I know this isn't ideal for a first-round pick, but we're not in ideal land here. If Ravel's not ready till Thanksgiving, do I care? I mean, I have Slay.
I kind of do.
I mean, I'm giving up a big pick for him.
I'm giving up a big pick for the guy.
Would you rather have a nose?
He's a corner. I would rather have the nose.
Okay, yeah.
That's I'd rather have the big guy.
Right.
If that's the case, I'll get the cornerback either later in this draft or I'll get him
next year.
Right. And he's going to contribute this year. He's going to go through training camp and the offseason program. I don't want to draft a guy who's in the Roman Wilson situation before we ever even snap the football.
Right. If I knew that there was a good chance he's ready for camp, I think his name would be down by now.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
I don't know if that's the case.
Right.
I don't know if I don't know if Benjamin Morris's hip is.
Yeah.
They're good football players, but
did we put McMillan down yet?
We have not.
To me, I think it comes down to McMillan versus the next group of D linemen.
Okay. To me, it comes down to if all these dudes are off the board at this point, I am definitely trying to trade out of this spot.
This is a terrible spot to use the 21st pick, and it would never happen.
Right.
I mean, George Edge guys are going to go, and I mean, Mason Graham's not on our list. I mean, like he's going to go. Right. I mean, you never have this dilemma, but you might if you trade to 30.
You might.
You know what I mean? If you trade to someone blows your doors off and you get out of the first round altogether, this board doesn't change. You just scratch some names off it, and you still have to make the decision. I think I'd start going D-line.
I think so as well.
I might take McMillan over the D-lineman. Because the Pickens trading thing, I think, could be real. Like, if McMillan falls out of the sky and you take him at 30, I would at least field offers for Pickens.
Well, let's take a break.
Okay.
We'll think about this a little bit further.
my
We've got
coffee and
17
think
names
about
on our
this.
board.
Okay.
We'll go over the list when we get back, and then we will finish off the list when we get back. How about that?
All right.
He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We're building our Steelers top 21 list, who we would draft at 21. We'll finish off the list when we come back right after this. And welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is Matt Williamson, and we're going through our list of the 21 players we would take at 21 if we were running the Steelers draft room. And we've got 17 players on the board. Just to recap here, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Abdul Carter, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, so 3 defensive tackles in a row, Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas, Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas, Will Campbell, the offensive lineman from LSU, Armand Membo, the offensive lineman from Missouri, Omarion Hampton, the running back from North Carolina. I might bump him ahead of those offensive linemen. He would be a very, very valuable player.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers taking snaps with Hampton and Warren, like, you might have a real good offense.
You might have a
real good offense.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I mean, a year from now, you might regret it. It might be you'll be sitting there like, I got Will Campbell sitting here to take over for Siamalu, and he's way overqualified for the job.
Well, I may draft that guy in the fourth round this year.
Right.
And, do it that way. You don't have to have superstars at all 5 positions on your offensive line, but a superstar running back would
It'd be nice right now.
Yeah. Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, the 2 tight ends at 14 and 15.
They're different, but they're both very valuable.
Yeah. Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback from Colorado, at 16. And we got Kelvin Banks, the offensive tackle from Texas, at 17. He may also be a guard.
Yeah,
the same
he would be something.
Yeah. The same conversation you're having there with Campbell and Membo.
So went and refreshed my coffee, took a step back, and I'm sitting out there thinking, man, how long ago, pretend like you know nothing that happened in the last 365 days. How long ago would we have listed Odunze and Brian Thomas and McConkey, let alone Hartline or Harrison and Neighbors?
Yeah. Those guys were all on our list last year.
Oh, I know. But, I mean, like, they would have been listed ahead of Nolan on this list. I mean, a lot of those dudes. How early would McCarthy and Penix and Nix been on this list, let alone Jake Daniels? 6 tackles. They would have been ahead of almost everyone we've listed so far.
Well, in last year's draft, there were 20 first-round guys in that draft. In this year's draft, after the top 10 to 12 guys, you're going to be drafting second-rounders in the first round.
That's really my point.
Which, again, brings them back to positional value for your franchise.
Yeah, and everyone knows that last year was a super offensive-heavy draft. It took a long time before the defensive player went. But we would have had the draftable version of DeJean and Quinn Mitchell and Arnold 10 picks ago.
They were all on our board last year.
I mean, it just shows how weak this draft is and how strong last year's
at the top. I think there's depth.
I'm talking about top 21.
Yeah, but the actual true first-rounders, not so much.
Right. I mean, I would take every name I just mentioned now over Walter Nolan or Grant. I mean, I'd take Nix and Penix over those guys.
Close. In that situation, I'm just trying to think of the defensive linemen last year.
That was a bad group.
It was a bad group.
There were some edge guys, Dallas Turner.
Those guys would still be very much in the mix.
Compared to other D tackles, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm just in terms of position, who were taken. Like, we loved Brian Thomas. And, there were Odunze and these guys. I mean, they were serious lists. You get to 21 really fast, where we're just struggling to get to 15.
I think you put at 18, I think you go defensive tackle.
I was going to say, I think the next 3 are D tackles.
Okay.
The other conclusion I kind of come to, and the coffee was pouring out there, like Tyleek, Collins, Alexander.
In that order?
Yeah. Alexander would be third of those for me. But I think they're all very similar in terms of grade.
Alfred Collins, defensive tackle.
I know Williams hasn't done a ton as a pass rusher, but I'm not 100% sure it's not in him, though.
Oh, I think it's definitely there.
He really seems to get better all the time.
We got one guy left then.
Okay.
Spot number 21.
Is McMillan on the list?
He is not.
I didn't think so. It'd probably be my vote. Or Ravel. Is Ravel, are we missing anyone? Is that the next best corner?
Hairston, a little light.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Thomas for me.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I suppose Ravel is the next guy.
Mm-hmm.
These traits
him or McMillan or Burden.
Where do you go with the safety? Emuari.
I don't know that he's as great as he is a tester.
But you'd have him for a year to work with him.
He wouldn't be my pick. I'd take McMillan and Ravel over him.
All right. That McMillan it is.
All right. I mean, he'd be useful.
Yeah.
Somebody be out of place at slot, but okay, there's worse problems to have.
You'd be a tough team to defend with all these 6'3", 6'4" wide receivers out there.
You move them all around. They all take a turn.
Really,
slot,
honestly, if we're putting Warren and Loveland on there, and people are going to scream, "Why you another tight end?" No, because I'm going to play him in the slot.
I'm going to play him in the slot. I mean, I play a lot of 13.
Yeah.
And I like Freiermuth, but there's a chance both those guys are better football players than him.
Yeah.
They could. I mean, Washington's his own thing.
Right.
And I don't think you'd limit his snaps. He has a certain role.
But Warren and Loveland are both really good they're good receivers.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Especially, I mean, Loveland isn't much of a blocker.
Right. He's
a detached player
he's a better blocker than Tet McMillan.
Right.
Tet McMillan won't block anybody.
But he's kind of a Buka in terms of he'd be my slot and right. Yeah. I mean, you'd find a use for him.
He would get on the field.
A lot of 13, right?
And he would be a tough match. I mean, he's 6'6".
Yeah.
Like
you could middle of the field guy, and
Go ahead and put your
him
5'9" slot cornerback on him. See how that works out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, you're just going to put defenses in binds.
So do we move anybody around here? We got Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Abdul Carter, Nolan, Grant, and Harmon.
It's amazing that they're that high. It's not that I dislike them, but again, they would never been in the top 10 last year. I mean, and they're good players. But it's just they're not fifth.
Will Johnson, Matthew Golden, Jody Barron, Will Campbell, Armand Membo, Omarion Hampton, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Shador Sanders, Kelvin Banks, Tyleek Williams, Alfred Collins, Derek Alexander, Tet McMillan. I think Hampton's the one that maybe Hampton and Sanders
should be higher.
Higher. I don't think you turn your nose up at the quarterback, even if he's not.
I don't want to settle at quarterback for a B, but again, there's a price point.
Even like Daniel Jeremiah's rankings yesterday, he had Shador Sanders as his 19th best player in this draft.
Just pretty good. Right.
I'll defer to Daniel's scouting over my scouting.
And frankly, if 2 years in he's good, not great, you can trade him. You can get out. I mean, you don't have to. He doesn't have to be an 18-year veteran for you. I mean, you can get out of it if you want.
It's just a matter of where do you bump those guys. Like I would move Hampton ahead of Campbell and Membo.
I'm fine with that. I totally understand it.
Yeah, I think he's.
I mean, he could be a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, he's more of an immediate need, and need out.
I mean,
straps the want.
He helps you win a playoff game next year.
Yeah. And maybe Sanders over Warren and Loveland.
How about Sanders versus Hampton? Just take a totally different view on things. One's a quarterback, one's a running back. I mean, they're just total ends of the spectrum in terms of value.
True.
And by that stretch, should Dart be 21? I don't love Dart. I have Shuck ahead of Dart, but it should be 21.
At 21, I mean,
sit him a year.
First of all, for us to get to 21 and all these guys to be off the board would be
it's impossible.
I mean,
it's
not going to happen.
I mean, our fifth guy might be. I think our fifth guy has a more than 50% chance of being there.
Our guys at 5, 6, and 7, Nolan, Grant, and Harmon. At least one of those guys is going to be available at 21.
98% chance.
Yeah,
and all three might be there a 15% chance.
Right.
Right. Which is bonkers. Like
there's
there's
less of a chance that Will Johnson will be there. There's less of a chance that Omari and Hampton will be there. There's less of a chance that Shedeur Sanders is there.
Yeah. 100%. Which kind of knows what we would end up doing at 21, but we do this every day. We talk about this, right? Right. I'm cool with you bumping Hampton up. I think you got to take Sanders over the tight ends.
I think so too.
Yeah. I mean, versus the O-lineman, tight end's a real luxury pick.
It really is.
O-line's a bigger need than tight end.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
You know.
Okay. Shedeur Sanders at 12.
I'm fine with that. And I don't think I would have Dart.
I don't know.
You know, I mean, I would understand he sits there and learns from Rodgers from a year, and then you hope you have a gem. And that's worth it.
But McMillan is more of the...
He'd help you win a playoff game now, too.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And next year, you'd be really happy that you did that.
Yeah, and I don't know that Pickens will get a contract.
I don't know that you would be next year. You'd be real happy because I think next year you'd still might be in the quarterback market because now you've worked with Dart for a year and you're like, okay.
And I'd probably win, not necessarily, but you might win fewer games with Dart as your first-round pick than McMillan.
Yeah.
And you're picking a little higher, and you're closer to the quarterback you really want, not the one you got. You know what I mean? Instead of picking 24, you're picking 17. And you go, well, I only have to move up 5 spots to get the guy I really want, even though Dart's on my team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be married to him.
Yeah. Where I could see Sanders being, okay, there's traits there.
Yeah. Right.
There's more traits there for me with Sanders than there are with Dart.
Yeah, you could easily be after year one, although he probably wouldn't play either. But after year one, you're like, I'm excited for him to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we ended up with Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Abdul Carter, Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, Will Johnson, Matthew Golden, Jahdae Barron, Omarion Hampton, Shedeur Sanders, Will Campbell, Armand Membo, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Kelvin Banks, Tyleek Williams, Alfred Collins, Derek Alexander, Tet McMillan as our 21.
A lot of clusters.
Yeah.
Which is
kind
3D
of
tackles and 3D tackles, 2 linemen, 2 tight ends. But that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we don't really need a tight end, but eventually you would take one.
And if you look at it, 2 quarterbacks, 3 cornerbacks, if you consider Hunter cornerback, if you consider him a wide receiver, there's 3 wide receivers on there. 1 edge, 2 running backs, 6 defensive tackles.
Yeah.
6, but in 2 different clusters.
Yeah. 3 O-linemen.
And that 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 offensive linemen.
2 tight ends.
And 2 tight ends.
No safety, no off the ball. 1 edge because he's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not worth talking about, but I wonder deep down, would you take edge 2 over McMillan?
Maybe.
But, I mean, again,
take Mason Graham over McMillan?
Right? Or over, Alexander.
I mean, there's some good football players that we left off of our list that were on there the last time. If you look at it,
Jahad Campbell or
Graham was on our list the last time.
High.
Yeah. Josh Simmons was on our list the last time.
Which I would understand.
Yeah. Luther Burton was on our list last time. Ibuka was on our list the last time. So
I don't know if they traded for Metcalf at that point, though.
They had not. So
a big difference.
Huge difference.
Right.
That changes a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we might have even considered, if they didn't trade for Metcalf, Higgins might be on our list.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, you might start really digging deep in the receivers.
Yeah.
Where we only had 2, and one guy barely made it.
Right.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.